Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining the Lucidworks webinar, Why Insight Engines Matter in 2020 and Beyond. My name is Justin Sears, and I run product marketing at Lucidworks. Here's what we'll cover today. I'll talk about the Insight Engines market and the challenges that an Insight Engine is best to solve. I'll go over the results of the 2019 Gartner Magic Quadrant for Insight Engines, published in September of this year. I'll use most of the time to review results in the partner report to the Gartner MQ, published in November. This is the 2019 Gartner Critical Capabilities for Insight Engines. I'll share results for the 4 use cases in the Critical Capabilities report. Those are external website search, extraction of data for analytics, insight applications, and internal intranet search. I'll wrap up my presentation with a description of 2 Insight Engine case studies, one for the insight applications use case and one for the external website search use case. Finally, I'll leave plenty of time to answer questions at the end. So speaking of questions, you can type those in via the Q&A button in the meeting portal that we're all looking at. Send those in during my prepared presentation, and I'll answer as many of those as I can before time runs out at the end. So please do share those questions. I really enjoy answering them. Gartner publishes Magic Quadrant reports as a service to their clients who are evaluating technologies for purchase. Lucidworks has placed well in both the 2018 and 2019 Magic Quadrants for Insight Engines. In the 2019 MQ, published in September of this year, we were the only visionary company. So taking a step back, let's take a quick look at the reasons that Insight Engines are necessary. McKinsey tells us that agile organizations insist on full transparency and easy access to information. And yet, according to Forrester, data silos are keeping information from employees at their moments of need. Thus, the need for Insight Engines, which Gartner defines in this way. Insight Engines combine search with AI to deliver actionable insights derived from the full spectrum of content and data sourced within and external to the enterprise. And the need for Insight Engines is growing. In fact, this year's MQ quoted this strategic planning assumption. By 2020, 50% of analytical queries either will be generated via search, natural language processing, or voice, or will be automatically generated. That's why we are very proud at Lucidworks that we placed as the only visionary in the Magic Quadrant report. Here are some of the things we're most proud of our Fusion platform for. It is architected on major open source projects, Apache Solr and Apache Spark. It offers a flexible set of deployment options. It enables third parties to train learning to rank models. It uses a number of approaches to evaluate and tune relevance. And our customers are very satisfied with Fusion's ability to evaluate and tune relevance. So that was the Magic Quadrant, published in September, and we were very happy with the results. The Critical Capabilities report, which I'll go over now, evaluates the same group of vendor companies, but strictly from a product functionality perspective. Gartner analyzed 15 vendors for Insight Engines in each of the 4 use cases. Gartner ranked Lucidworks Fusion as number 1 in 3 of those use cases, for external website search, extraction of data for analytics, and insight applications. In the 4th category, internal intranet search, Gartner ranked us 2nd. So let's go into the different use cases. Fusion was the highest scoring technology for the external website search use case. Gartner defines this use case as site search within and across the enterprise's public-facing and multi-channel digital presence. Some of the many Lucidworks customers using Fusion for this use case include Reddit, Lenovo, and REI. Let me pause and remind everyone, please send in questions. If you have questions about any of these use cases, type them in the Q&A and I'll get to them at the end. So moving along to the second use case that was covered in the critical capabilities report, Fusion was the highest scoring technology for the extraction of data for analytics use case. And Gartner defines this use case as deriving data from indexed content for the purposes of analysis and reporting, either within the Insight engine or via syndication to other applications. And that syndication to other applications is an important point for us because we are architected on open source standards that are easier to integrate to with third-party applications. And we also have an API-first architecture so that it's very easy via APIs to connect to the Fusion platform. In this category of use, in this use case, Bluestem Brands is one of our customers using Fusion. Fusion was the highest scoring technology for the Insight applications use case. Gartner defines this use case as delivery of insight to digital workers within the context of custom-made or third-party applications. Some of the many Lucidworks customers using Fusion for this use case include Red Hat, Uber, and PwC. Fusion was the second highest scoring technology for the internal internet search use case. Gartner defines this use case as enterprise-wide search within the digital workplace. Some of the world's largest organizations use Fusion for this use case, and some of those include the United States Census Bureau, Verizon, AT&T, and Wells Fargo. So that gives you a high-level overview of both the Magic Quadrant and the Critical Capabilities Report. Both of those are available to all of you on our website via these download links. If you would like to have your own copy, please go to lucidworks.com and take a screen capture, if you like, of this page, so you have a link. You have the links there, or of course you can just search. We do search quite well on our website, so you can look for these reports from our website and download them to go into more depth if you desire. Lucidworks supports about 400 Fusion clusters at more than 300 organizations worldwide. And we'd love to be able to share more details on the successes that those customers enjoy using Fusion. We're working hard to publish more of those case studies to our website and make them publicly available. In the interest of time, I'll mention two success stories that are publicly available and that are indicative of the larger group. I'll talk about Red Hat and Reddit. So first to Red Hat, the open source Linux pioneer. Red Hat uses Lucidworks for an Insight application related to customer support. Red Hat customers can search product information to answer their own questions via self-serve portal, and this has doubled their click-through rate on the support site. It's also avoided about 50,000 support tickets in the first few months that it went live. I'm sure that number is larger now. That's a slightly outdated number. By offloading the simpler questions that customers can answer for themselves, support engineers have more time to answer the tougher questions. And this is important because it provides better product insight back into the organization and also earns the company improved customer loyalty. Fusion also reduced their total cost of ownership by about 91% compared to their previous self-service portal technology. And you can see the enthusiasm for the results here in a quote by Andrew Hickox, an engineering manager. He told us that Fusion's Insight engine convinced them to migrate their search applications from native Solr over to Fusion, which reduced the team's dependence on IT resources. I'm seeing questions come in. Thank you very much for that. Keep them coming. So let's talk about Reddit. According to Alexa's May 2019 rankings, Reddit was the world's 15th most visited website. So this is a case study that we're particularly proud of due to its sheer volume. There aren't too many examples of external website search at greater scale and complexity than what Reddit runs on Fusion. They process 47 million searches every day on Lucidworks Fusion, with 3 million comments and 58 million votes adding to the index every day. More than 230 million unique visitors search Reddit every month, and they have reduced their search-related IT infrastructure costs by 85% compared to the prior solution. Again, we're very happy to have enthusiastic customers that understand the challenges that they have to solve and understand how Fusion solves those challenges. Nick Cadwell, VP of Engineering at Reddit, you can count the number of search errors we get on one hand. We index more content, and we index it faster, and you're able to actually find things and find them more quickly. So that is the end of my prepared remarks. Let me go into questions now. And, of course, we have too many participants to open up the line, but if you hear me answer one question and that leads to a follow-on question, you can keep coming in with questions. So let me see. How does Lucidworks outperform others in ETL for unstructured data as opposed to breaking silos? So that's a great question. Thank you for that. We really don't need to do the ETL. So we index data in Sitio. We don't do a lot of data movement. What we find is the organizations we serve typically already have the ETL processes in place to put some structure and around the data and to clean the data. Probably everybody understands what ETL means, but that's extract, transform, load, preparing data for consumption in an analytics platform or search platform like Lucidworks Fusion. So typically that work has already been done upstream, and we consume it by bringing it into the index. And again, because we don't need to move the data, we can index it in Sitio. We don't have a lot of challenges around ETL working or not working. Usually that's being done upstream from when we're consuming it. Great question. Next question. Could we run Fusion on-prem or in the cloud? I mentioned in, I believe, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, Gartner mentioned that we have one of the broadest ranges of deployment options, and we're very excited about that. Also, we are expanding that. So what are the deployment options include on-premises in the data center, call that the traditional way, also private self-managed cloud deployments in data centers. So if you have Kubernetes in your data center, you can run this as a private cloud. We also have public cloud self-managed deployments on AWS, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure. And also, we provide an entirely self-managed service for some of our customers, so they can do cloud deployments for Fusion that are completely managed by Lucidworks in a platform-as-a-service model. All of those modalities are available to any of our customers at this point in time. Okay, next question. They're coming in. Let's see here. Thank you. How does the user of Fusion AI run ML training themselves, or is it more of a plug-and-play algorithms menu? It's certainly the latter, but it's the former as well. So let me explain that. In our platform, Apache Spark is an integrated component of that. There are a certain number of ML jobs powered by Apache Spark that ship in the box with Fusion. And those are chosen based on our experience over the last 10 years supporting customers in digital commerce use cases, customer-facing website search, as well as digital workplace enterprise search applications. So you get many of the most highest performing models that we found to work with our customers over that time. Or I should say, we launched Fusion about 6 years ago. So we've got 6 years of experience with that. And the experience there is really about combining ML with Apache Solr. So our company was founded by many of the original architects and leading contributors to Apache Solr. We understand Solr very, very well, and that allows us to combine machine learning in a really optimized way for the use cases that people choose Fusion for, and for which Gartner recognized us in this critical capabilities report. So it comes in the box. You're getting data streaming in on day one because people are using your platform to search for things, and each one of those searches, what results they click on, all of those signals are automatically training those models on day one. Of course, it might ship with a model without a model that you need in your operation, and so we make it very easy to add new machine learning models onto the platform as well. And then as we learn from our customers which of those models that we might not already have shipped with the platform, we can always look at adding those into our platform downstream. Great question. Let's see. Here's one going more towards developers and DevOps teams. It says, how does Fusion help developers or DevOps teams? I guess there's three general areas or aspects of Fusion that make it very popular with developers. First, as I mentioned, our open source core model is built on flagship big data projects, Apache Solr and Apache Spark. Developers have already worked with those. Many developers in the space have already worked with those platforms, and the work that they've already done can port. They can port their existing applications that they built to native Solr or using Spark ML jobs into Fusion without any or very little disruption, bringing those over. Secondly, our cloud-native microservices architecture that we released in Fusion 5 this year make it easy to scale different aspects of Fusion individually in a cloud-friendly way, and this makes performance, maintenance, operations a lot more agile than versions prior to Fusion 5. And finally, I mentioned APIs. Our API-centric architecture makes it very easy and predictable to attach new applications to the underlying Fusion service without a lot of difficult integration work. And Fusion App Studio is our app development toolkit that ships with Fusion. And so that makes it very easy for developers to create new applications on top of the core Fusion platform to extend the benefits to more audiences and different use cases. Let me see. These are fantastic questions. So I got a question. Why there was a question? Why wasn't Fusion a leader in the MQ? And that, of course, the true answer to that question will rest with Gartner. But from what we believe, it was due to some frustration that some of our reference customers felt around professional services and support, so not related specifically to product functionality. And we saw that as a lagging indicator since we had invested heavily in those areas just before we submitted for the MQ. We do not expect those challenges to be there now or next time we submit for the MQ. Here's another question. Do workers at most companies use Fusion for enterprise search? Oh, sorry, I'm misreading it. Most companies that are using Fusion for enterprise search generate enough data through the enterprise search portal to train your ML models? So that is a great question, and I think that indicates some understanding of how ML model training works. You need a lot of signals to train models, and of course, if you launch a platform to a lot of users, say, for example, some of the digital commerce customers of ours I mentioned, REI, for example, they get a lot of visitors every day doing a lot of things on their site, so those models train very quickly. In some enterprise search customers of ours, the volume of activity is lower, and so it does take sometimes a little bit longer to train those models. Now, that said, some of our customers are U.S. Fortune 10 companies with tens of thousands of employees using Fusion. Those customers generate plenty of signals to train the models very quickly. For the others, we have ways to solve that cold start problem. Fusion administrators can create handwritten rules about search relevancy and personalization to make the system work well on day one, far better than the status quo usually. And as that signal data accumulates, as the platform is used by more and more users, the engine then can tune itself automatically and autonomously with those signals. Of course, as I mentioned, some of our digital commerce customers process more than 100 queries per second. They've got plenty of signals and enough volume to start training their models on day one. And we believe that our number one position in the critical capabilities report for Insight applications for that use case reflects our efficiency training machine learning models overall. Okay. Oh, this is an interesting one. The question is, if I want to invest in a new search technology, I want it to serve both my customers and employees. Can Fusion be both customer-facing and employee-facing at the same time? The answer to that is definitely. In fact, both our digital commerce and digital workplace solutions have customer and employee-facing interfaces. So of course, if you're running search on a digital commerce site, the merchandising team needs a back office portal to boost, block, promote certain items, even if it's being used by far more consumers on the front end. So some more examples of that front-end, back-end kind of hybrid use cases. Customer support and client advice applications of Fusion have both very active employee and customer end users. For example, I mentioned Red Hat. They let their customers find answers to their questions in Fusion for support ticket deflection. That helps the back office employees that are using that same instance of Fusion because they can use the same search capabilities for research into the tougher technical questions that the customers can't answer for themselves. So when they do take that call, they're using the same enterprise search capabilities to find information they need very quickly to answer questions. And there's plenty of those type of examples in financial services. For example, some of our big capital markets customers are giving advice to high net worth value customers. It's much more powerful for them to answer their investors' questions on the phone than to say, hey, let me call you back on Thursday after I've had a chance to do some research. Because our AI-powered search capabilities make that information far more discoverable more quickly, they can get to the answers in real time in many cases and have a well-informed discussion, even about questions that they hadn't heard before their client asked them the question. Let's see. I think I've gotten everything that came in. Let me just make sure I haven't. Okay, I've answered all the questions that have come in through the portal. So I want to thank everybody for joining. I really encourage you to visit our website and download those 2 reports to understand more about the functionality that we offer and how it stands out compared to some other vendors that you might be looking at. I also want to always give a plug for our annual user conference, Activate. That'll be coming up towards the end of the year. So if you want to go and really learn from the practitioners that are using these technologies to change their businesses and to digitally transform the way they serve their customers or help their employees, the Activate conference is always a fantastic way to get that information firsthand from folks. If there are no further questions, we will call this webinar concluded, and I really want to thank everyone again for taking a few minutes this morning to join us. Have a great day.